Take notes, Sony. Take notes. So not only does Sony have plans for a Venom spin-off film, but they also have plans in making a Silver Sable / Black Cat film, thus creating their very own shared universe. However, what Sony fails to establish is the fact that you can't have a Venom, Black Cat and Silver Sable film without Spider-Man, or more specifically Peter Parker, because all three of them characters do in fact link up to Peter Parker, and having a shared universe without Peter Parker does not make any sense. Now, from what I've heard, that the Venom spin-off film is going to be a horror sci-fi flick, in which deals with the origins of the Venom symbiote before it even reaches to Peter Parker, and have the alien symbiote become pretty much a slasher villain from within the spaceship. Does that sound familiar? While the Black Cat Silver Sable spin-off is going to be pretty much the two femme fatales teaming up for whatever reason. Again, does that sound familiar? So if Sony wants to make their own shared universe outside of the MCU, then Sony really has to think outside of the box. And in my eyes, the best way in making a shared universe and making their own franchise without having to connect to the MCU is pretty much make a Spider-Man 2099 film. And honestly, this is the best idea that Sony can do for a multitude of reasons. For starters, the setting of the 2099 universe is very fresh, and we haven't even seen it on the big screen yet. And despite how many people would think that Sony's running out of ideas by putting Spider-Man in a futuristic setting, we have never seen a superhero film that has ever been in a very distant future before. Unless of course you count Logan, but then again, it was only really set in the very near future, and nowhere near to the extent of the 2099 universe would be. Plus, DC isn't going to make a Batman Beyond film anytime soon, so there's no reason as to why Sony can't even make a futuristic Spider-Man film. Plus, the beauty of having a world of 2099 is the fact that they don't even have to rely on Peter Parker. And all they really need to do is just establish that there was a Peter Parker in that universe before his demise. And since Alchemy X was trying to recreate the Spider-Man abilities in the first place, just mentioning Peter Parker's existence in that universe just feels very natural. Not to mention that this Spider-Man is not Peter Parker, but rather Miguel O'Hara, so it feels all the more fresh. Not only is Miguel O'Hara's personality is very different to Peter Parker's, but also his abilities as well. So when you really think about it, Miguel O'Hara as Spider-Man 2099 could really hold his own film, if not his very own franchise. Because not only do we have a new and completely different Spider-Man, but also set in a very distant future, and in turn could create new and interesting stories. And although Spider-Man 2099 doesn't have a very broad rogues gallery, they could always go a little more creative, like how the creators of Batman Beyond had to do with their villains, and pretty much do the same thing. And if they were to have Venom 2099 as the main villain, please save him for the sequel. But the best thing about making the Spider-Man 2099 film is the fact that it could be set literally anywhere. And like how Sony wants to do it, they can just have it as its own thing. But if they wanted to go a step further with this, they could use either the Sam Raimi universe or even Mark Webb's universe, and say that the Spider-Man 2099 film is set in either universe. Or the best thing is, just have Spider-Man 2099 as its own thing, and if Sony really wants it, they could also add a little in so that the 2099 universe could cross over into the MCU as well. Because at the end of the day, the 2099 universe is only an alternate Earth and a potential future for the MCU. Spider-Man 2099 clearly has its fan base, not to mention that Miguel O'Hara is probably the most popular Spider-Man next to Miles Morales. And people clearly want to see a Spider-Man 2099 film sooner rather than later, because at the end of the day, this is something we haven't seen yet, and not to mention, nothing is stopping Sony from creating this potential great film. And if Sony does the Spider-Man 2099 film done right, then this film could become a new game changer for the comic book films. So do you think that Sony should just go ahead and make a Spider-Man 2099 film? And would you be keen in watching Spider-Man 2099? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.